This is Danielle Harris, and you are listening to Rock Video Rental.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Rock Video Rental. We are coming to the last movie in the Halloween series, and we are talking about the brand new Halloween Kills from 2021. It is directed by David Gordon Green, and the plot for this one, the plot on IMDb was terrible, so I kind of spitballed and made my own. With Michael seemingly burning alive in Laurie Strode's house, Laurie, Karen, and Allison are rushed to the hospital. Michael escapes and is on a bloody rampage through Haddonfield. Tommy Doyle assembles a lynch mob of civilians and 1978 survivors to hunt down Michael and kill him once and for all. The cast for this one, we got Jamie Lee Curtis comes back again as Laurie Strode, Addie Matichak as Allison, Judy Greer as Karen, Anthony Michael Hall as Tommy Doyle. We got James Jude Courtney, Nick Castle, and Aaron Armstrong all playing Michael Myers. Kyle Richards returns as Lindsay Wallace. Robert Longstreet as Lonnie Elam. Will Patton as Officer Hawkins. And Dylan Arnold as Cameron.
And just to say up front real quick, since this is currently in the theaters, as you would probably expect, but just to make sure, there will be spoilers. So,
spoiler alert.
Warning, warning.
Okay, Kevin Malone. Is Robert California coming?
Yep.
So, yeah, we actually saw this together in the theater.
Dun,
and
dun,
I think
dun.
this is the first movie that you and I saw together in a theater since Man of Steel. Or Gravity.
Gravity.
Yeah. Gravity. That was a while ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, like, we both kind of had mixed feelings about this one, but I guess I can get into, like, a little bit of the recap. A brief recap. So like I said in my plot, the Strodes are being taken to the hospital with the house burning and Michael locked inside, right where we left off in 2018. The fire trucks are like rushing towards the house, and Laurie loses, like, no, like, just let them burn kind of thing. And firefighters show up. Michael ends up escaping and just laying waste to all the firefighters. Then he goes on a rampage. Laurie is completely unaware that Michael is still alive in the hospital until probably about halfway through the movie.
Mm-hmm.
This movie also has a fair amount of flashbacks too.
Oh, yes.
To 1978 in the original rampage that Michael went on. And we get a little more backstory of Officer Hawkins, who was there at the time. We also get some more Dr. Loomis antics.
Yes, Loomis returns briefly.
Yeah, as Donald Pleasance, but it's actually a guy in Donald Pleasance makeup. They did an amazing job with that. It looked just like him. The voice was kind of off, but the look-wise, it looked just like him.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out, like, throughout the movie that Hawkins blames himself for the Michael Myers incident because he had a chance, or Dr. Loomis was going to put a bullet in Michael's head, and Hawkins pushed him away at the last second and talked him out of it, sparing Michael's life because, you know, he felt bad. He's like, this is somebody's son. Like, he's a human being. And as Loomis always said, it's no man, it's pure evil. So now, during all this, we get the group of survivors Sans Lori at a bar. Seems like they get together every Halloween. Um, so we got like Tommy Doyle, we got um Marion Chambers, we got Lindsay Wallace, and we have Lonnie Elam, and they're kind of just like you know celebrating, I guess, that they survived encounter with Michael, and kind of like commemorating those that were lost. And it happens that they find out that Michael has escaped, and he is starting to kill again. So they basically form a lynch mob, and they get a whole bunch of people to rally around him, and now they're like trying to hunt Michael down. And meanwhile, Michael's just kind of laying waste to everybody he comes in contact with. And then, word finally gets to Lori when they're in hospital, and probably the first big issue we had with this movie. Up until this point, it was pretty suspenseful. And, like, I was really drawn in to Tommy and the other survivors, like, along with the people of Haddonfield, trying to hunt down Michael. I was like, we have to find him. Like, they kept saying evil dies tonight. That's said like probably a trillion times in this movie.
Yeah, we said if you did a drinking game for whenever they would say evil dies tonight, or oh man, he's
40
been
years ago.
he's been haunting us for 40 years or something like
Yeah.
that. There was a specific way they said it. You'd be dead halfway through the movie.
He's been haunting Haddonfield for 40 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really drawn into that part where it's like, man, I can't wait for like Tommy to finally get his chance with Michael. And like I can't wait for them to like trap Michael and just like duke it out with him. And then they go to the hospital and like he's trying to get everybody together. We see some more people from the original movie, like Sheriff Brackett is now like a hospital security guard.
Ancient.
Yeah. And he joins the crew because they killed his daughter Annie in 78, so he's been wanting to get his hands on Michael as well. And we find out a little bit before that there's another mental patient that escaped. He shows up at the hospital trying to get help, and everybody thinks he's Michael for some reason. I mean, he's like 5'6", and Michael's like 6'3".
Right.
And so they start chasing him and trying to get him, and they're like, "Oh, it's Michael Myers. We got to get him." And Lori sees him. It's like, "That's not Michael. Like, it's not Michael." And like nobody's listening to her. And Karen ends up running ahead somehow, and she gets the guy first, and she like tries to protect him. The mob just like goes crazy. They break in like the doors of where the guy's at, and he jumps out the window and dies. And it's just they took this whole time to like show the dangers of mob mentality. Like, did we really need that in this movie? Yeah, I thought it brought everything kind of like all the suspense and all the build of the mob trying to find Michael kind of like to a halt.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think that was needed.
Yeah, no, we discussed because there was a little bit that we thought that maybe they were tying things to, like the idea of when they accidentally killed you knew who it was, that one guy in the bush.
Ben Tramer.
Yeah.
When they killed Ben Tramer in part 2.
They ran him over.
Yeah, and then they killed that one guy.
By shooting him in the bushes.
Part 4. But it's like they're trying to pay homage to that, but at the same time, they totally retconned everything after part 1.
Yeah, exactly. So they could have easily done something like those other 2 instances, like they ran somebody over with a car, or they accidentally shot somebody while out in town, because this whole thing was way too much and way too distracting.
Yeah. And there's at one point in this movie too where there's like 4 or 5 different storylines going across 2 time periods.
Yeah. You mentioned about the flashbacks, and I didn't jump in when you said it the first time, but I feel like they did it too much, because if they're doing the order of the original Halloween, then Halloween 2018, and then this one, there were not enough flashbacks in Halloween 2018 to justify the amount that they used them in this movie.
Yeah, I felt the same way too. I thought the flashbacks were handled extremely well, but maybe we didn't need as many of them.
Yeah, well, it was weird because they seem to be trying to do more explaining, um that way more explaining than they needed to do. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think they need, because what wound up happening is they were explaining that Hawkins, when he was a younger deputy or whatever his position was, he accidentally shot another
Yeah, he
officer.
shot his partner on accident when his partner was being strangled by Michael.
Yeah, which was kind of like totally unnecessary. Like,
Hmm.
that really did not add anything to it. And then there was something else with another flashback, but it seemed like the flashbacks, the original one was kind of interesting because you ran into one of the kids,
Lonnie.
Lonnie, thank you, when he was a kid, and so that tied into the movie. That first flashback, which I think that was a part of, that all made sense. That gave you a little bit of backstory, gave you a little bit of context. After that, I don't think any of it was necessary. Like, did we need to know that they were actually going to shoot Michael in the head?
Yeah, and then that Hawkins stopped him.
Yeah, like, I didn't think that added anything and was necessary at all. So
Right, I think it would have been handled better if Hawkins had a chance to shoot Michael and um
froze or
he froze up or something like that. Michael was able to escape.
mhm.
I think that would have been better. Um yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. So we left off with the death of the other mental patient.
Yeah. And Lori like spends the entire time in the hospital. I mean, granted she has like a huge open wound in her stomach. But like there's a few times where there's a one time where she got up and I'm like, "Oh man, now Lori's going to join and it's really going to like hit the fan, you know?" But then nothing ever really happens with it. And now it's like the group's out looking for Michael again. Um Lonnie and Allison and Allison's boyfriend, who's Lonnie's son, they realize based on the encounter that Lonnie had as a kid that, you know, he tripped and he's turned around and Michael was coming towards him as a kid and he kind of just got in a fetal position. When he like lifted his head up, Michael was gone. And he realized that he was across the street from Michael's house. So that's when he realized, when I was a kid, Michael spared me because Michael isn't like trying to go after anybody, he's just trying to go home. And anybody gets in his way, like he kills basically. And that's what we kind of learned too, that like there was nothing special about Lori. She was just there.
Yeah, and that was fair. I thought that was good. And
Yeah, and then when they talk about too that like Michael in the last one wasn't coming for Lori. Dr. Sartain like forced that meetup
mhm.
of Michael and Lori. So it makes you think too, like Lori spent the last 40 years of her life preparing for Michael to come after her, and he was never going to.
Yeah, okay, and so that's the thing here too that I kind of wanted to mention, because I almost feel like some of this is a little bit weird, because okay, if we took this movie as being like, all right, there were all these other Halloween instances and movies before, it's like, okay, there's a ton of crap that went down. Like, Michael is really bad dude. He has haunted Haddonfield for decades.
Mm-hmm.
But this technically goes original Halloween to Halloween 2018.
Yeah.
And actually, wait a minute. You know what's interesting? No, I'm just kind of connecting some dots here. Okay, so from Halloween, the original Halloween to 2018. So they're just like, oh, he's haunted us for Haddonfield for 40 years, and it's like, no, he hasn't really. Like, he just did it the one time, and then you guys have been obsessing about it for 40 years, and he hasn't done anything since.
Yeah.
So really, it's just kind of like you guys are making a big deal out of nothing. I mean, how many people did he kill the first time? How many was it? Like 8?
5 or something like that.
Yeah, and then
7.
he killed like 5 or 6 in the first movie, and then in this one they showed a flashback where in the flashback he killed maybe an additional 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
So I mean, not a gross amount of people, but I mean, yes, still murder. So,
Plus
but
his sister too,
yeah.
when he was a little kid.
So, but it's just like
And
I don't know
I
if
can see too, like it's a small town, and something like that crazy happened. I can
Mhm.
see it being like a huge deal for years and years and years.
Yeah, I could see that too, but it's just like there was essentially kind of like one relatively isolated incident,
Yeah.
and then the town obsesses about it for a long time. But it is what it is. I mean, that's like a very small footnote. So then, where were we? Oh yeah, they discovered that Michael was going home. So then the 3 of them
Yeah,
were going
Lonnie,
to
of
the
course, is
house.
like, well, I'm gonna go in instead of like waiting for backup or I don't know, busting out a cell phone and calling Tommy and be like, hey, I know where Michael's at.
Right.
Like bring everybody. So he goes in by himself, of course gets killed. And then Allison and Cameron go in.
Still don't call anybody.
Yeah, still don't call anybody. Cameron gets killed. And then Michael's about ready to stab Allison. Karen shows up out of nowhere, stabs him in the back with a pitchfork. And then she baits him to come outside. And she like takes his mask. Michael follows her. And she like leads him over to like the lynch mob. And now it's just like an iron circle of cars. I don't know if you ever heard that term before.
No.
Or a ring of iron. I can't remember, something like that. So now
Circle the
they got,
wagons.
yeah, basically. And like they're all waiting for him, and everybody's like pounding on him and shooting him. Nobody shoots him in the head, of course, because you know that would kill him. They're like stabbing him, pounding on him, um, shooting him, and like Tommy's hitting him with a baseball bat. They get him like beaten down, and then Karen stabs Michael in the shoulder.
Yeah, in the
Like
back,
why
the
why
shoulder,
didn't you stab him in the chest or like in the throat
the neck.
or the head?
Yeah.
But anyway, so she like goes back to check on her daughter, and then Tommy's like, "We got this handled" or whatever. And then of course Michael gets up and he starts laying waste to everybody because they come at him one at a time, like a Steven Seagal movie. And Michael's like slitting throats and uh
Just
stabbing people in the hand, stabbing people in the chest, just laying waste to everybody.
mm,
And towards the end of it, Tommy ends up getting his face smashed into the baseball bat. And now we show back at the Myers house, and Karen's like in Michael's old room looking out the window like they showed him in a flashback as a kid. And all of a sudden Michael appears behind Karen and kills her.
mm-hmm.
And end of the movie.
Yep. And then during which that ending there where Michael's killing everyone, Lori is doing some kind of a dialogue saying how Michael is pure evil and he grows stronger by killing people.
Yeah, it's almost like I said this in the last one too, that she becomes Loomis.
Yeah, she kind
Pretty
of does.
much. Pure evil. Michael. Maybe Lori's gonna in the next one just go completely off the deep end and try to use her granddaughter as bait.
Yeah, no, that is kind of a fair point. But yeah, it's just that kind of with everything else, it just feels like they were trying to do more explanation than there needed to be about like who Michael is, how Michael is, and whatever.
Yeah, I saw someone on YouTube, a guy that I watch sometimes, he was talking about how there was too much of that kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
with uh talking in ways that people just don't talk.
Yeah.
You know, and Loomis was notorious for that. Um I
Hell shall not keep him.
yeah, the I wish he would burn in hell, but I knew in my heart that hell would not have him and things like that. Like people don't talk like that. And Michael grows stronger with every time he kills kind of thing. Like, yeah, I'm there for it, but at the same time, there was a little too much of that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, and then, but also it was a little bit odd because, like, I mean, Michael, did you get a kill count?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Michael just laid waste. I mean, we'll talk about how many were killed here in a minute, but it's just like, and so this is where my mind is tripping up because I'm trying to remember of like what things happened because we're supposed to do Halloween 2018, and this one.
Yeah.
And I really probably should have refreshed on 2018, but he didn't. I don't know. I don't feel like he laid waste to people all that much previously in the original Halloween and then even Halloween 2018.
No.
Because this one almost seemed like he was going out of his way to kill people and go overboard with it. And I still say the most confusing thing in that movie because I thought it was going to have some kind of a meaning. After he escaped, he killed the first responders at Lori's house. He went to a neighbor's house and he killed them both. And then he picked up the the body of the husband and then stabbed him repeatedly with knives on the kitchen table.
Yeah. Um,
No explanation.
yeah. I saw someone kind of give a little explanation for that on YouTube. And it's kind of like a callback to when he killed Bob in the original one and he stuck him up on the wall and he kind of looked quizzically at him. It's kind of like, you know, because he was like, he stabbed the guy with the knife and then he went and grabbed another one and stabbed him with that one. It's like he's trying to like, he's mesmerized by the different ways that these knives work or something like that. So I kind of can see that a little bit. It was a little strange to like see him just grabbing like multiple knives instead of just pulling the one out and doing it over and over. Or he's like
Yeah.
trying to find a knife that he likes the best.
But I think the one he kept, he didn't even stab the guy with.
Huh,
Like
maybe.
I think there were about 5 knives in there, and he stabbed 4 into the guy, and then he pulled out the last one, and then he just walked out of the room. He didn't stab him with it.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, it seemed too deliberate to not have an explanation.
Yeah.
So, but then also they did several callbacks to the 2018 movie, which weren't terrible, but
Yeah, they tied up some loose ends, I felt like.
yeah, but oh man, I gotta mention this before I forget. There were a couple things I wanted to mention, but this I have to because this bothered me the most. There is not a single morgue in any hospital that has a full window that has blinds open for anybody to walk up and look at
On the first floor.
on the first floor of the hospital. If that exists, somebody like show it to me, show me video, prove me wrong. But that was the most awkward, like obvious bad thing about this movie.
Yeah.
Because there were multiple times Allison, her character, while she was in there and her grandmother was getting treated, walked up to the window and looked at dead bodies, and there was a body there butt naked with his noodle hanging out. And then there was another time where mom comes in asking where her son is, and she's running around. And then she goes up to the window and sees her son, whose face is all mangled up
Yeah, and you
right
don't
there
have him
by the
covered.
window. Yeah, uncovered.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
that
the
there's,
one guy that was completely naked, I'm like, okay. Like the dude's hanging brain and you don't even have him covered up.
yeah, that
Yeah,
that
because
was,
Allison looked in and saw the toe tag on Dr. Sartain.
mhm. That was the worst thing of this whole thing where I just,
Yeah, that was one thing, and I'm like, okay.
yeah.
Um, we get some like random characters thrown in here too, like Big John and Little John,
Yeah.
but not Lil John, Little John. It's a gay couple that live in the Myers house, and yeah, they're kind of just there for like comic relief, I guess.
Yeah, that was a little odd.
Yeah, a little bit. Um, one thing that they did tie up from 2018 is that they finally acknowledged Ray's death, the dad.
Hmm.
Like everybody's ignored it in the last one. Like he died, and like Lori saw it, it didn't say anything, and like they finally in this one, uh, talked about him being dead, and then they show Karen like have a breakdown, and the whole reason that Allison went along with the mob is because like they Michael's already taken so much from her,
Hmm.
like ruined any kind of chance at a relationship she would have with her grandma, and then killed her dad.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was cool and clever was how they, when they took a moment and she and her mom, so Allison and Karen were sitting there and they were talking about the dad being dead, is that the mom said, "Oh, well, even if he's not here, he's always with us, even if we don't see him or
Mm.
whatever." And then towards the end of the movie, I don't know if you picked up on it, but I think Allison was the one who said basically the exact same thing, but about Michael Myers.
Oh yeah,
Like he may not be here, but we may not see him, but he's always, his evil or whatever is always going to be here.
yeah,
And so I thought that was kind of a little, clever tied together.
yeah. I didn't pick up on that. That's pretty cool. Um, I guess acting wise,
You want to talk
I
about the worst actor?
yes. The lady that played Marion Chambers was the worst in my mind.
And she was the original.
Yeah, she was the original. I got some more stuff about her in facts, but there was a line that she delivered that made me like actually groan out loud in the theater is when they're in a car and Michael's like coming after them and he pops up at a window. She's got a revolver and she's like, Michael, this one's for Dr. Loomis. And then she goes to fire and the gun's empty.
Yeah.
And then Michael just kills her.
And then
Like that would just made me go, oh.
one
Because the
of the
line itself is bad, but then it's delivered horribly. I was like, that was the best take you had.
well, then that's followed up with one of the most insane moments of the movie too, which was funny and cool at the same time. But then black girl runs up and she's got this like 45 or something.
She's got a Desert Eagle.
Oh, it was a Desert
It's
Eagle.
like
I
a
couldn't.
hand cannon.
Yeah, it was one of the big ones. And so she goes and she's shooting at Michael from long distance and absolutely sucks. But then she gets close and shoots at him. But Michael opened the car door.
He kicked the door open and hit her, and then she ends up shooting herself in the head.
Yeah. Which is, of course, one of those crazy, ridiculous, stupid moments, but it fit. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah. I guess another kind of rough actor in it was Charles Cyphers as Brackett. That's the original Brackett too.
Yeah, that was kind
I
of expected.
Yeah, and like I said, both of them, Marion Chambers and Brackett, like those actors really haven't done anything in like the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be a little bit rusty, but it seems like they could have got some better takes out of those.
Yeah.
I'll say though, like Jamie Lee Curtis is always good. She doesn't really do too much in this one. I think they're probably just gearing up for the final.
I hope so.
Um, I will say that Andy Matichak is really good as Allison.
Yeah.
I thought she probably did the best of anybody in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then, man, another like one that's not the greatest is Judy Greer as Karen. Like I like Judy Greer. She's usually pretty funny and stuff she's in. Um, but in these movies, she's just a little wooden, I guess. And like I think it's somewhat to do with her character too, because her character is definitely a Karen.
Yeah.
She's kind of a fuddy duddy and like I don't know, kind of brings everything to a stop. Overly cautious kind of stuff, and it just I don't know if it's her character or what, but she's a little irritating in these movies.
Yeah. I feel like the fact that this movie struggled with a lot of different elements that it didn't shed a good light on her role.
Yeah. I will say too that Will Patton did a good job again as Officer Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see what they do with him and Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
And Kyle Richards, she did a good job as Lindsay, and she doesn't really act that much anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, and then Anthony Michael Hall as Tommy Doyle. I mean, he's usually pretty good in everything he's in.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of expected, what we got with him. Even like small roles and stuff he does, like in a Goldbergs, where he plays
Yeah.
like the cool teacher.
Yeah.
Like he's good in that too. So, which is funny because he was such a like scrawny little wiener guy as a teenager in like all those John Hughes movies.
Mm-hmm. And then he turned into Butch Tommy Doyle. I'm gonna kill Michael Myers.
Yeah, he had a growth spurt. It became more athletic and bulky.
Steroids.
Oh gosh, that'd be hilarious if he actually did. I doubt it.
I doubt it too.
Um, so man, the special effects in this were really good.
Oh yeah.
Like the gore and all that stuff, and like we mentioned the whole Dr. Loomis stuff. Did you know that wasn't CGI?
Are you serious?
It wasn't. It was makeup effects. Makeup effects only.
No digital?
No digital at all.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a guy that I think I got something in trivia about it, but I I'll say it anyway. So they had a guy like that they knew that had kind of a resemblance to Donald Pleasance.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just put like special effects makeup on him and he ended up looking like just like him. Like I
Wow.
saw there's pictures on Facebook
Hmm.
and on Twitter and stuff of the actor. I think it's his first movie he's ever acted in. And they showed him in the makeup and he looked just like Donald Pleasance in the 78 original. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah, I see an image of him.
Yeah, and I'll say some of the camera work was awesome too, especially like that shot of Michael walking out of that burning house was awesome.
Dude, that the movie started out so strong. And
Yeah.
it's so disappointing that I mean, you had to imagine that was going to come down a little bit, but it was pretty disappointing that it dropped off as much as it did. But yeah, we definitely had to talk on that because not only that shot of him coming out of the building, but then that whole scene where he took out all those firefighters was really awesome because they had different angles of, firefighters looking out their
Yeah, the
helmets.
POV shots and stuff.
Yeah.
And like a pickaxe right to the face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was some really cool shots in there. And just the visual of Michael walking out of that burning house and like the water from the hoses.
Yeah, which we have to address because that is also another terrible part.
Yeah, it was not a fire hose that he was spraying on Michael.
Yeah, there was no, first of all, I mean, okay, you could say Michael Myers could maybe stand up to a fire hose, but that was obviously not a fire hose.
Yeah, that whole him walking out of that burning house was almost like a WWE entrance.
Yeah.
And all the firefighters are just like, oh shit.
Well, it was really cool because they're just like totally freaked out. They're like, what? Why is this guy walking out of this burning house?
Yeah.
And then he picks up whatever was the pickaxe, and the guys start like grabbing weapons because they're like, this guy doesn't look right.
Yeah. Something's gonna go down. And yeah, there's a wide variety of stuff. There's like fire axes, pickaxes, um, that concrete saw.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that. You ever used a concrete saw before?
Yes, I did for
Yeah.
a summer job one time.
Yeah, those things are heavy and like it's insane how easy they can cut through cement.
Mm,
Uh, but yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff there. The score is awesome,
hmm
which is done by John Carpenter. I don't know if you knew that.
we may have talked about that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I believe it was like um yeah, it was done by him and maybe like one of his kids. They helped him out. I think I heard that. But
Like his 5-year-old daughter. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, honey, I got to do this scary movie music. You want to help me out?
got like a little kid's keyboard, complete and utter natural.
A kazoo.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, so it was like, we got like the original theme and then like remixes of it. And then kind of like some of the dark industrial stuff was pretty cool.
hmm
Like the heavy distorted guitar and stuff. Especially like in the scene where he fights the firefighters, there's that heavy guitar in it.
Yeah.
It just like fit perfectly. And I mean, Carpenter's the master of that stuff, so I wasn't really surprised that it was amazing.
hmm
But as far as gore, I can get into kills. And man, Halloween does kill.
Yes, the title
Uh,
was not deceiving.
there are 32 kills in this movie. Actually, when we were watching it, I think I leaned over to you like 10 minutes into the movie. I'm like, dude, there's already 8 kills in this. So we killed 11 firefighters. Like I said, there's um, fire axe, pickaxe, concrete saw, other things. And then he goes like next door and he kills Sandra with a light bulb. That one is pretty gory. And then he kills the husband Phil that he stabbed with multiple knives. And then later there's a news report and they talk about 2 more murders that were off screen. And then he kills a kid named Dennis off screen. You just see
Yeah.
like the bloody mask in Michael's hand.
hmm
Marion gets stabbed. Marcus, who was with Marion, gets stabbed in the eye. Vanessa was the black girl with the Desert Eagle, accidentally shoots herself because of Michael. We get Big John gets an eye gouge, and that was the most intense eye gouge I have ever seen in a horror movie. Because I don't know if you noticed, but when he was like cramming his thumbs in his eyes, the guy's eyeballs popped out.
Yeah, I did notice that.
I have never seen that, in, like, because Jason used to do that in movies,
hmm
but I've never seen like anybody's eyeballs pop out. And then Little John gets stabbed. And then we get Lonnie gets killed and stuffed in the attic door. Cameron gets his neck snapped. Tommy gets his face smashed with a bat. Brackett gets his throat slit. And then 6 other people get stabbed and their throat slit. And then Karen gets stabbed at the end.
Yeah. Um. Actually, I'm backtracking here, and I know I'm maybe getting a little off subject, but another thing too that bothered me with this, and I'm trying to keep it to this series of original Halloween movie, Halloween 2018, and this one, because I know we've had this conversation with some of the other movies, but Michael almost seemed like he was putting too much thought into what he was doing. Because usually Michael just kills, right?
Mhm.
What was up with setting the bodies up at the playground?
Well, if you remember in the original one, he did that too. Remember, he had him set up in that house because like he had oh god, why can't I think of her name? I can think of
Oh,
the actress's name, Nancy Keys, Annie Brackett. Had her laying on the bed with Judith's headstone, remember?
true.
And
Yeah.
then like he had people stuffed in closets and stuff,
Yeah.
and Bob propped up on the wall with a knife.
Propped up on the wall, that's where he killed him.
Yeah.
And then but he did like hide the bodies. But like this one, he in the first one, basically he had her in the bed and then he put the headstone at the top of the bed. But this one, like he put masks on people and then he hung them up and like placed them. It was just unusual. So it kind of it made it a little bit weird to me personally.
Yeah, I guess I kind of just overlooked that a little bit just because they've said before, and I can't remember what they said it in this movie too, but Michael is like, because I know Loomis has said it, like he's a 6-year-old um, with the body of a man, and like, the remorse or any like human dignity, I
Emotion.
guess, is thrown out the window. Like he doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just like maybe like the playful side of the 6-year-old or something. I don't know. I kind of just looked over it.
Yeah, it didn't bother me as much as some of the other things, but I don't know. It's just like, as we commented, supposedly Michael is only interested in getting into his house and anybody who gets in his way, but he's going to stop and do these things that take time when they're saying that his prime directive or the main thing he wants to do is just get home.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's spending more time doing other things.
Prime Directive makes me think of RoboCop.
Right.
So you want me to get into trivia? I got quite a bit.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the opening credits, there were 12 pumpkins featured in the opening title, with the last one indicating Halloween Kills because it is the 12th installment in the franchise. And I didn't pick up on that.
Gosh, you suck.
So the firefighters are actual firefighters from the Cannon Air Force Base Fire Department.
Nice.
Yeah. In the flashback scene in 1978, Michael attacks Deputy McCabe with a rope. This is a callback to the original when Sheriff Brackett responded to the alarm at the hardware store, and then he reported to Annie and Lori that a rope, some Halloween mask, and a set of knives were stolen.
Hmm.
So Jamie Lee Curtis has now been in 6 Halloween movies, and she is officially passed Donald Pleasance with the most in the series.
Snap.
Well, technically,
Technically.
Donald Pleasance's likeness was in this one. But so David Gordon Green, the director, he recalled that when they attempted to find a yearbook photo of one of Michael Myers' victims from the 78 film, he came across a yearbook photo of actor Bob Odenkirk, and he thought that he resembled the original actor of John Michael Graham, who played the character Bob.
Okay.
So once the rights issues were resolved so that Green could use Odenkirk's photo instead of the actual actor, Odenkirk is therefore credited as Bob despite not actually appearing in the movie. And I'm not sure if you know Bob Odenkirk by name,
Mm-mm.
but he's Saul from Better Call Saul.
Oh, so
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. So the breathing sounds of Michael Myers in this movie were actually done by Nick Castle, the original Michael.
Okay.
Ross Bacon, who was the actor that played the mental patient named Tivoli. In Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, he actually passed away before the release of Halloween Kills.
Mm.
Yeah. So Paul Rudd was actually offered to reprise his role as Tommy Doyle, but due to scheduling conflicts with the new Ghostbusters movie, he had to decline.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I still
Uh,
think he should have showed up for a cameo just to like walk
yeah,
across in the background or something.
I think the director and some of the writers were a little concerned too that he might overshadow a lot of the cast, being such a big name now.
Yeah.
So that's when the idea was to have Anthony Michael Hall play him.
That's fair. I think, I mean, there are a bunch of different elements, but I think that part worked well.
Yeah. So Kyle Richards, who plays Lindsay Wallace, she actually broke her nose filming the fight scene with Michael. She didn't tell the cast or crew about it until later because she wanted to finish the filming of the scene herself.
Hmm.
So, though the filmmakers made a new mask for the 2018 film that looks similar to the original mask, it still looked a little bit different. And then for the flashback sequence, they actually got an original William Shatner mask and then um, recreated the Michael Myers mask from that.
Nice.
So it's like an exact look as what the original one was. So Nancy Stevens is the actress that plays Marion Chambers. She has been in 4 Halloween movies. She was in 1978, Halloween 2, Halloween H2O, and Halloween Kills,
Rock.
which I forgot she was in H2O. She was killed at the beginning of it. So, in an earlier cut of the film, it had an ending with Laurie calling Karen on her cell phone moments after Karen was killed. And Michael actually answers the phone and breathes into the receiver. And a callback to like a similar moment from 78 after he killed
Oh,
Linda.
yeah.
Um, so that version of Halloween Kill ended with Laurie walking out of the hospital holding the knife that Allison gave her. And then they had like a freeze frame that zoomed in on the bloodstained knife, um, which was replicated from 2018. So, however, this would likely give the audience an impression that the next and presumably final chapter in the timeline would take place in the same night as 2018 and Kills. But the director has said he's confirmed that Halloween Ends will jump forward in time and is likely that the ending of Halloween Kills was altered to remove the implication that Ends would be like like the single evening narrative. So they're gonna go ahead in time with this one, the next one.
What?
I don't know how many years, because it's got to take place on Halloween. So what's Michael gonna do in his time? Just chill?
Yeah. Is he gonna go hide with some old man and sleep for a bunch of years and then oh
He's
no,
gonna
for
go
a
in
year.
quarantine.
Yeah. He's gonna like have some old guy take care of him for a year just to turn around and kill him.
He's just gonna stay in his old house by himself,
No.
socially distanced, and when he comes back, he's gonna be like 20 pounds heavier. Just been working from home. So the last thing I got is so far, this movie has a $20 million budget, and as of October 27th, when we were recording this, it has 90 million so far in the box office.
All right.
So yeah, pretty profitable. Now we can get into our grades. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first? Oh, we got to do IMDb. What am I doing?
Oh, you idiot.
Getting ahead of myself. So I got IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. What do you think those are?
IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. Let's do IMDb 7.2.
5.8.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of polarizing. I've seen
Hmm,
a lot of people say they don't like it.
interesting. Um, and then let's go with Rotten Tomatoes audience score of 65%.
68.
Ooh,
It's
pretty
also a
close.
critic score too. What do you think that is?
Yeah, the critic, let's go with 59%.
38.
Holy crap.
I was surprised.
Dang. I'll let you go first with your
Okay.
rating if you want to go.
Yeah, now we can get into ours. Um, like I said, I had mixed feelings about this. There was a lot of things I thought it did well. I would say like the first 20 minutes of this movie they were awesome. It kept me like at the edge of my seat and like I was locked in and I was there for it, you know. Um, and then once I get to the hospital and I had the whole side story of the other escaped mental patient and spending, man, it felt like 10 minutes with that.
Dude, I
It
feel like it was
really
more.
just slowed the movie down. Like it was really ramped up and like stuff was happening. People were getting killed left and right. And like Michael's being established as like this unstoppable machine. And then it's like, oh, here's this other guy, and oh, he jumps out the window, and it's sad. I'm like, I don't need that in a slasher movie.
Hmm.
What if I was to rewrite that part? So they're at the hospital. Tommy shows up, you know, and he's saying, "Hey, Michael's still alive, and we're all gonna go after him. This is what's happening." And you know, there's people at the hospital, um, because of everything that's gone on, and they all rally around him, and then they leave and they go and hunt for Michael. And then we see more scenes of like people trying to like take Michael out, and they're getting attacked. Would have been way better than this guy jumping out of a window.
Yeah,
It
totally.
was just really unnecessary. Like it didn't need it at all. And again, we get the big um burly black cop with the cowboy hat who you think's gonna be like this like ultimate badass. Does nothing. Two
Nothing.
movies in a row. He does nothing.
I have to imagine he must be doing some of the next one.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Like
Because they
if,
show him kind of like dumbfounded and
yeah.
just completely overwhelmed, like after that whole mob scene.
Hmm.
I don't know. But, and I really hope in the next one that either uh, Allison and Lori are dual leads or they push Allison up a little bit more. Because I thought her character now has the most beef with Michael, more
Yeah.
than Lori does.
Hmm.
Because now Michael has killed her mom and dad and her boyfriend and has attacked her grandma. So, like, everything she has in life is pretty much gone. And it's all because of Michael.
Yep.
So, I feel like she needs to be the main character or like a dual lead with Lori.
I think that's
Um,
fair.
But, you know, like I said, you know, even though there's that slow part in the hospital that kind of brings it down, and the ending left a little bit more to be desired, I did still really enjoy this and I was entertained by it. There's a lot of things it does right. You know, like I said, the score is awesome. Some of the kills are great. Um, and, you know, some of the visuals and all that kind of stuff, like Michael walking out of the burning house. I do not like how the end fight with Michael was edited. You didn't get to really see much of anything going on. It was all like quick snap edits and like close ups, and I don't know. But like I said, I did really enjoy it, so I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I feel like
Huh.
that's fairly solid for what it is.
Okay. All right. Well, I am taking, so for perspective, you were at 4 for 2018, so you dropped a whole point to 3. This one's taken a drop for me as well. I did enjoy it. It's definitely a watchable movie. I felt that, interestingly enough, I felt that I would put it on the scale of almost being like, I look back at more things that could have been better,
Mm-hmm.
than things that I thought were actually good. I agree. The first part of this movie was the best part. Again, leading up to that hospital part, honestly, they should just gotten rid of the other mental patient, just completely gotten rid of him. And then it would have shortened up the movie. They could have added some other stuff in there, but just gotten rid of that because that just they were already competing with multiple storylines going on at one time. It was making things confusing. The flashbacks didn't help things as much as they thought they would. But then also at the beginning, you were getting this super like jerk back and forth between like, oh my gosh, okay, there's a bunch of killing and action going on. Then it comes back to um the current time, and then they get all kind of like serious and they have this conversation about something, and then they flash to something else, whether it's in the past or like another storyline that's currently going on, and a bunch of people are dying again. Then they go back, and usually it's in the hospital and it's something serious, dramatic that they're talking about, and they keep doing this back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple times it was almost back to back times they got all like emotional and sappy about some stuff, and it's just like it just was not cohesive.
Yeah.
It did not work that well, but there were still plenty of good things to talk about because I mean, I feel like there were some of the best moments in the series in this movie with that opening scene of him coming out of the house on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So some great things to be able to take away from that. But overall, this is a step down. 2018, I gave a 4.5. This one, I'm dropping a whole point as well, like you did, to 3.5. Because definitely left some things to be desired. I was looking at some of my other ratings for some of the other movies and felt like 3.5 is justifiable with where I rated a lot of other things. So rock.
Right. All right. So next time we will be wrapping up the series as a whole and talking about some different things. It should be a good time. So yeah, come by next time and we'll be ranking the series and talking about our favorite aspects of it and least favorite aspects. So until then, as always, be kind and rewind.